Hi guys, and welcome back to another diagnosis series, and for this video we are going to be talking about mental health, and personally for me we are going to be talking about major depression disorder as well as borderline personality disorder. So first I wanted to say that there are many different kinds of depression. There's major depression, manic depression, as well as chronic depression. There are a lot more as well, but I guess we're going to basically just mention those three so you can get an idea. And out of the three, I was diagnosed as a child with major depression disorder, which in the end just basically means that I am depressed most of the time. So as a child, I personally had a good childhood, and I really don't want to get into full detail. I actually am going to be making a video after the fact, after this video. So what I'm going to do is, once I'm done with this and I record the next video, I will somehow, somewhere in this video, post a link up here somewhere discussing the details about everything with my life. So that would be something that you might be interested in, but until I make that video you will not see that link, but it should be up hopefully sometime soon. So as a child I had a great childhood, but I did see a lot within my home, and I guess my siblings call it a broken home. You hear it in movies, you see it in real life, that children have been raised in a broken home, and I guess I was raised in a broken home. So I've had depression, I guess, more in my teens, and it really hit me having depression from what I remember, as I don't have a good memory about my childhood, and that because of trauma, was when I was younger. When I was living in New York, I might have been in 7th grade or so, I started to see a psychiatrist. I really held on to people. Like, I didn't want them to leave me. Like, I didn't have enough dependence. I was codependent, so I don't think I started medications then, and no one really thought anything besides I was just a depressed child. When I moved to where I live now, I was 13, and by the time I was 15 I was on 2 different antidepressants, Depakote I believe, and then I ended up with Celexa because Depakote made me feel like a zombie. Now my family would notice a difference, especially my mom, because I did so well on the Celexa and or Depakote. The Depakote made me feel more like a zombie, so she would see that I wasn't the depressed child that she normally has grown to love, but then I was not depressed, but I also wasn't myself. I wasn't happy-go-lucky either. So we started me on something called Celexa, and that worked really well. I was on antidepressants off and on most of my life, and I think I finally stopped it when I was around my early 20s, like maybe 24, when I said I'm done and I just no longer want to take medication. I want to learn to live without medication. Now, I eventually got diagnosed with borderline personality. I was around probably 18 when I found that out. I had a lot of symptoms with my everyday life. I cried a lot, and I was a cutter, and I wasn't manic at all, but then again I had moments in my life where I did things that were kind of, whoa, really out there, and it was pretty scary, especially for my father at the time, because I was living with him then. And I learned to live my life more without those symptoms, and up until this very day I have not been on my medications since I stopped back when I was around 24 years old. So some symptoms for those who might have major depression disorder. It sometimes does get complicated because you wonder if you just have depression, and it is a form of depression. It just sometimes can be worse. And so I guess depression is more the first step, and the longer you're depressed, the more often, the more concerning it gets for the doctors and for your family and for yourself. And then they extended that depression name to major depression disorder, manic depressive. So some symptoms could be weight loss, weight gain, anger, codependency, fear is another one, suicidal thoughts or even suicide attempts. Obviously just the typical depression, sadness, heartache. It does vary. Feeling restless and tired, fatigued. Being tired to me was a big one. I was always just blah. I didn't really want to do anything. That's another thing as well, is losing interest in what you had such a love for. Guilt and yeah, guilt is a huge one. Concentrating. A lot of people who are depressed are also on medications like for ADHD or ADD as well. And like I said, it's really hard to pinpoint which disorder you may have because the symptoms tend to kind of clash together, and that's where you need to see a professional doctor like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or even a therapist to kind of discuss and go over your symptoms for you personally. Now let's talk about borderline personality disorder. Some people confuse that with bipolar disorder, and I've had many doctors ask me about my symptoms, believing that I could have it, and you know, they all came to the conclusion that I have borderline personality, or a history of borderline personality. And I don't want to go too deep into bipolar disorder, but just to kind of give you a quick overview about the difference between the two, as quick as we can get, is that bipolar disorder is more manic. Manic meaning, I guess for me, it's more extreme highs and lows. So for instance, an example, right now I could just be really sad and crying and hiding in my room and not wanting to be around anybody, not taking phone calls. And I can do that for 3 weeks straight. And then I just wake up, or I'll watch TV, sad and lonely, and then out of nowhere, it was like a wave hit me and I just came to and I go, oh my gosh, I want to go shopping. And you do very crazy impulsive things like go spend $5,000 when you don't have it. And then the next day, buy a ticket to go to Paris or buy a car. And it doesn't have to be so extreme of buying and spending money, but it could also just be extreme where you went from, you know, sadness to happiness so quickly and so strong. And it lasts for weeks at a time or a longer period of time. You could also be so happy that you are calling everybody and you are talking like you have, like, you're on like a lot of caffeine, and you just want to do stuff like this and da 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 da, and you can't figure out, and you're just like, you're panicky, and you're go, and you can't stop, and everyone's like, slow down, like, and you're like, no, let's go jump on this ride, and let's go on this ride, and let's go paint the wall and do this. That's a bipolar, and it's very extreme. Now, borderline personality is also very extreme, but it's not as, I guess, as extreme, and your symptoms aren't as long. So when someone is going through a manic stage with bipolar, their manic stage might go for weeks at a time, and then their depression for weeks at a time. When someone has bipolar disorder, or borderline personality disorder, excuse me, it's more short term. So I honestly think somebody with borderline personality disorder, someone like me, I think it's a little more rough because I could be sad out of no, like right now I'm in a good mood, I'm fine, I'm you know, but then in an hour I could be extremely sad and crying for 2 hours and not know why I'm crying, because I have nothing to be sad about. Like I didn't lose my animal or my family, I didn't lose a job, I was just watching TV and then I got sad and then I couldn't stop being sad. Or I was looking at the stars and then I got sad, and then I'd be sad for, you know, for hours at a time, even a couple of days. And then out of nowhere, I'd be happy again. So it's more short term. It can be hours, days, maybe a week, when, but they are still extreme. And then when you have more of a bipolar, it's longer. So if that makes any sense. So with borderline personality disorder, you can have a wide range of symptoms, abandonment issues, shifting of goals and values. So you could have your heart and soul into loving animals and then the next minute you just don't really care, or you want to be a lawyer and then now you just don't care. Maybe even your religious beliefs may kind of just fade away into the darkness. Another symptom is the shifting of your mood. And I'm not just talking about sadness and then happiness. I mean cruel. You love your friends, and you know, talk to them on the phone and just blow up for no absolute reason, and you don't care. Some people even know they're doing it, but they can't stop themselves. That was my thing. I would say something and know that I was being rude, but my mouth kept opening and I couldn't stop myself. And then by the time it was done, it was over with, and I wasn't at the point of apologizing, even though I messed up bad. And, you know, I kind of just sucked it up and hoped that my friend wouldn't leave me. And that's just how I was. And I'm saying I was as in past tense because everything that I'm talking to you today in this particular diagnosis series is a history, meaning that I technically have it, but I've learned to control it, and so I don't really have symptoms of it. Now, that doesn't mean that tomorrow it just all won't just come crashing back in, you know, and it most likely will, and it will probably come back with a large, or not a large, a really extreme event in my life, like maybe someone I know that dies. I might just blow up and become more of a major depressive or borderline personality disorder will just kind of come flowing back in. But being rude and just kind of just taking somebody and just being you can get really bad, and that's another symptom of borderline personality disorder. Emptiness and feeling alone and scared and a lot of fear is huge, and that was really big for me. I turned to a lot of alcohol. I wasn't a great alcohol drinker. A lot of people are either just normal, like they're just happy-go-lucky. I was, but then I went to this extreme and was just mean and cruel. I wasn't, you know, and then some people are just drunks where they just can't hold their liquor and they're falling and slurring the words. I never was like that. I actually held my liquor in a sense that no one knew, but if you knew me, you would be knowing that I was just cruel and mean. And I actually wasn't cruel and mean, I guess. I was more happy-go-lucky, or I was really sad, but my sadness was so bad that I had tantrums. And again, all that details, all about my real life, you know, the downright dirty stuff is going to be posted in that link above somewhere to really tell you the real backbone history about everything. So, mental health issues is not curable, but it's definitely treatable. And so, like I said, I learned to control it without being treated for it, at least now as like an adult. And I'm a person that on any antidepressants, not saying that I may not end up going back on them, which I have been thinking about for other reasons. And so if you really are nervous and you're scared, you're not alone, and there are definitely treatments out there, whether it be medication. There's a lot of different kinds of therapy out there as well. Psychotherapy, I hear, works wonders, and I believe, I don't remember, that I had psychotherapy as a child, but not very long. So there's actually a treatment for borderline personality and maybe other conditions, DBT. It stands for, I had to look it down on, it says dialectical behavior therapy. It says it's a structured outpatient treatment developed by a particular doctor for treatment of borderline personality disorder. So I guess it is only for borderline personality. And I do remember doing that as a young adult or a teenager. And now when I look back, it would have been really great for me, and I know it is great for others. Just it wasn't the time for me because I was just so broken at the time. I didn't care for any treatments, and I didn't care about therapy, and it just wasn't something I believed in. But look into it, because now that I'm older and I look back, it's a great source of therapy. You just have to work for it. If you or a loved one believes to have depression or any form of mental health issues and you need help, there are so many people out there that are willing to help you, whether they be family, friends, or even strangers. So make sure to contact somebody in any way if you need help, or if you believe a friend or family needs help. There are definitely loved ones out there and those strangers who also love you as well. If you need help, or if you believe someone needs help, please call the suicide hotline, 1-800-273-8255.